The diversity of Europe, the true diversity of Europe, has always fascinated me. I have a pan-European family history from Ireland to England to Germany, but my first name is actually Polish. It's spelt in the Polish fashion.
I didn't have my first piece of ass till I was 24 years old.
Really?
Well, I wasn't a pretty guy, and I didn't have any money. I was a bum.
I have, for the most part, over the course of my career as a public intellectual, worked alone. Because, you see, collectivism was just terrible.
Who was your first woman?
Well, I was the 300-pound whore.
Jesus.
This just struck me. If you drive out the benevolent collectivism, you atomize people. You alienate them from their tribe, their peers, their benevolent gang.
So I met this lady in the bar, and she seemed to like me. First woman ever liked me, you know. She was big, but she was a woman. What the hell?
Almost like trying to sand or jam a square peg into a round hole, I have to face the fairly beautiful collectivism of the Poles and try and figure it into my mindset of collectivism is bad. Even my definition of collectivism has been found wanting. But I am an empiricist, and I also respect emotion.
I worked and I worked and I worked and I worked because I wanted to prove I was a man, you know, first time. Boy, I really tried. I said, boy, if this is sex, it sure is lousy. This is what they've been talking about in the high school locker rooms.
Poland remembers what the rest of the West has forgotten, which is that your freedoms, which take generations to build, the fires of liberty that keep your civilization warm, can vanish and go out like that.
My dudes, my homies, the philosopher. The philosopher has landed. There he is in the woods, in the Polish woods, the fucking philosopher. Walking around fucking chewing on some shit. Chewing on some fucking wisdom. You wanna hunt the philosopher in the Polish woods like you would some kind of a vermin or some shitty rabbit or some shit? You fucking follow the droppings of the red pills that the philosopher leaves behind, motherfucker. Fucking Jesus Christ. The fucking philosopher is over there, philosophizing, fucking thinking heavy fucking shit. Thinking heavy thoughts, dude. What have you been doing while the philosopher was over there? What are you doing, dude? The philosopher has been eating some fucking Polish sausage, you motherfucker, you pathetic piece of shit. Fucking chronic masturbation again with you. Motherfucker, piece of garbage. Fucking philosopher over there. Motherfucker, he even fucking dropped a few salty ones. On the Polish concrete over there. There was a march and the philosopher looked around, fucking didn't see a black person, fucking dropped a salty one. He felt very safe over there in Poland. It's a big fucking safe space over there. He came into a bar. The fucking philosopher was greeted like the Canadian Justin Bieber that he is, who's also a Canadian. It's the philosopher in Poland. That's what it is. Yeah. It's the philosopher. Motherfucker. The Emmanuel Kant of our times. A fucking beady-eyed, fucking sneaky cunt. Stefan Molyneux over there in Poland.
To have a fire, you need to go and gather the firewood.
I kind of had to watch this shit, this fucking fucking hour of the shit. I did kind of watch it. I mean, I did rewind naturally through parts of it. Fucking Philosopher over there, motherfucker, the philosopher in Poland. Who comes up with a title like that? It's Stefan Molyneux. And in fact, one of the things I love about Stefan is when this whole shit was over, it says 100-year march, a philosopher in Poland. Okay, well, we've kind of saw this before at the beginning, and then it goes dark. And then the first thing you see in the titles, it's motherfucking Stefan Molyneux again. It just fucking pops up there as if we fucking forgot who the philosopher was. Motherfucker. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, I kind of saw this shit and thought, hey, you know, here's something where we can apply the kind of civilized, measured, and constructive criticism that this channel is known for.
I have a pan-European family history from Ireland to England to Germany, but my first name is actually Polish. It's spelt in the Polish fashion. And my family history bleeds eastward from Germany across to Poland. And I find Poland incredibly fascinating.
When I was growing up in Russia in the 1990s, there were certain degenerate alcoholics. And what they would do in absence of toilet paper, since they spend much of their day, drinking fucking borderline industrial alcohol in the streets, is when it came to fucking wiping their ass, they'd just fucking use a wall. And you'd see like a fucking streak over there. And it's like fucking, it seems like that's like Stefan's family tree. What's going on? How could it fucking bleed from Germany to Poland? What the fuck are you talking about it? Is your family like a tampon somebody used for a nosebleed and then threw away? And what the fuck? Where is it bleeding to, Stefan? It's bleeding into my brain, you motherfucker. What the fuck are you talking about? I don't know what the fuck, what kind of a fucking stain your fucking family is here. What is going on? Stefan is so ditzy over here, so desperate for some reason, for some Polish heritage, for that authenticity, for that Slav street cred. Motherfucking Stefan. Oh, my name is fucking, it's like this name Stefan is everywhere. Spelled in a Polish way. What the fuck does that mean? What does this mean, Stefan? You're so ditzy when it comes to this. Stefan, baby, you're a Coachella fucking slut. Well, what's your sign, Stefan? Come here, you little whore. I'm gonna use you up. I don't even know. It's like it's the beginning of the video and I'm already going insane. I look like a deranged homeless person. It's just a philosopher in Poland. It kind of has that effect on me.
My notebooks are full of so many questions and I feel like I almost can't rest, I can't sleep until I get some answers. How is Poland able to preserve its culture and its religiosity and its history so passionately and so powerfully? Why is it constantly referred to in the mainstream media press as xenophobic, as far right, as you name it, ultra-nationalistic or some awful phrases? Any of this true? I suspect that it's not. But I'm an empiricist. I always want to get the proof.
How did Poland manage to preserve its nationalism and be called fascist all the time? My friends, it's like every other fucking Eastern European and fancy pan-Central European country. That's how they all are. Everybody's fighting. Everybody has been kicking each other asses. We always fucking remember whose ass we kicked back in the day, motherfucker. That time you motherfuckers came to our door and Grandpa fashioned the sword out of kielbasa. Try to spank us now, Angela Merkel.
I think that we have very different situation in Poland than in Western European countries. I see that free speech in Western European countries, especially in England, as every year more narrow. And there is less space for free speech in academia, in the media. And in Poland, the situation is completely different.
Sounds like the type of guy who has multiple playlists made out of Sargon's videos.
Liberal here would mean more free market. In America, it means more lefty.
But yes, but I mean the Polish sense, the European sense of the word, liberal as economic liberal. It's like an insult in Poland because people have in mind not the period of collectivism during the People's Republic of Poland. They have in mind the whole period between, let's say, 1993 and 2015, when they say these were thieves who ruled, they stole the state's property, they stole our money, and they think this was liberalism.
Having been born in Russia, it is amazing to me how much of what this guy said parallels what a Russian nationalist would say. It doesn't just parallel, it is exactly the same, aside from the dates. I mean, we all have our savior. And I'm not comparing Poland with Russia. There's, of course, way more freedom in Poland. But overall, after the collapse of communism, there were a lot of promises made. And of course, countries have regained their sovereignty. But on the other hand, there was a rise in a certain new class of corrupt elites who have privatized what used to be government property. You had an emergence of certain liberal elites who may or may not have been right at any given point in time, but who frequently sounded condescending and detached from the suffering of the masses. There was a nice groundwork of cynicism, a nice layer of cynicism that started to fester. And when there is cynicism, there is a sweet antidote to it, and that, of course, is nationalism. Nationalism thrives on cynicism. It thrives in disappointment and despair because then it can affirm the idea of traitors.
There's a young man who's opened up something called a Freedom Bar, which is a place where people who are right of center, libertarians, objectivists, and so on can gather together to talk about ideas. Pretty remarkable. But what was even more remarkable was that this bar is actually in the basement of the ex-communist headquarters in Warsaw, where I can assume they basically had to, some decades ago, hose out the remains of people who had defied the regime and been tortured to death. So an incredible place to put a bar dedicated to the discussions of freedom.
Now we are led to believe that Mystery Slav, Stefan Molyneux, has a degree in history. In fact, I believe a master's in history. So one would assume that Stefan, Polish name Stefan, would know that while the communist regime and the Soviet Union has committed horrible crimes against the Poles throughout its existence, the one place where these crimes were unlikely to take place would be the basement of the Communist Party. If they had concentration camps, if they had prisons, if they had the locations of the secret police, why of all places would they torture people in the basement of the Communist Party, Stefan? You dumb motherfucker. And if they did, if this really is a place that's stained with the blood of people who either had the balls to resist the regime or who were innocent of the charges, why would you fucking go and have a drink there, Stefan? Why would you desecrate a place where people were literally fucking tortured? Are you gonna go to the Auschwitz discotheque after you're done with the basement of this torture chamber, the headquarters of the Communist Party?
All right, so we're gonna go with a meetup here in Warsaw. We've put something out on social media. I think originally there was maybe 24 people. I think the number has gone up quite a little bit. So we're going to go and meet the Polish listeners. I'm going to give a little talk about what I think of Poland. And it's going to be a wonderful evening to meet fans, to meet friends, talk ideas. And we can do it because we're in Poland. All right, let's do it. Wait, hang on. We need to check the list. Make sure that, okay. So nice to see you guys. How you doing?
Great. Let's listen up to the zingers, guys.
The first time I've seen this side of the bar, so this is quite beautiful. Thank you so much for coming tonight. This is my first time east of Germany. I believe my ancestors may have come this way in the past, but we won't speak of that now.
Hey guys, it's me, Stefan. Wanna hear a zinger? Hey guys, do you know how Polish I am? I wish I knew, but I defood half my family. I just don't. Well, anyway, what the fuck was that all about? Like, I don't understand what that was all about. Was that a sincere statement his behalf, or was he talking about like his ancestors invading Poland, in which case it's also kind of pointless? What the fuck is he talking about? Everybody just took it as a joke. Nobody really knows what's going on with the philosopher.
I believe my ancestors may have come this way in the past, but we won't speak of that now.
What was that laughter about? What did he say? I don't understand.
Everybody has been incredibly welcoming, incredibly friendly. And that is an amazing thing, because the view from outside Poland, there are these, these terrible international lies about Poland, xenophobic and terrified and frightened and angry and fascist and so on, right? None of this is true, or if it's true, the nicest, friendliest fascists, I think. Dare I say it, fascism with a human face, something like that. And the thing that I've really noticed is there's a lot of joy in the country. I know that there's a lot of fight in the country against the left, which everyone is fighting against, but there's a lot of joy. It's a joyful battle, and I think it's a joyful battle because you know you're going to win. In the rest of the West, the battle is not so joyful because there is not the same confidence of victory. But I think in Poland, you have a great assurance of victory if you stay strong, if you stay committed, and if you don't worry so much, and I don't think this group does, but maybe elsewhere among the politicians, if you don't worry what other people say about you.
You know, Stefan, in a normal liberal democracy, that's not the kind of a thing that you say. You're going to defeat the left. You're just going to destroy the left. Because it is assumed that a part of the population does hold these beliefs, and that eventually the pendulum shifts from left to right, etc. It's the course of things in a normal liberal democracy, Stefan. This is not something you're supposed to celebrate. This is a victory of totalitarianism. Shouldn't people be individualists and free thinkers and go in different directions, hypothetically? Shouldn't that not be the goal of like crushing a huge political movement into utter submission with a joyful fight? And the fact is, I'm not sure that the fight is so joyful, because in fact, some on the far right in Poland are accusing their predecessors of conspiring with Putin to cover up the fact that Putin killed 96 members of the Polish elite during the plane crash in Smolensk. Now, I'm not going to get into the details of this episode. You're free to Google it and find out your own information. But all I want to say on my own behalf as a pseudo-Russian with a Russian name, like my name is really Russian. Okay, it's spelled in a traditional Russian way. I have a Russian name, okay? As a pseudo-Russian, what I want to say is that I'm very open to believing different conspiracy theories about Vladimir Putin, sinister conspiracy theories about him. I basically believe that he's a criminal and I don't like him. However, this specific one that he engineered the crash of a Polish plane when the Polish officials came to Russia to commemorate the mass murder of Poles by Stalin in Katyn. I don't believe that he did it. However, it is a big issue in Poland in certain circles. And it really isn't a joyful fight when you are accusing other Poles, other political parties, of literally being complicit in mass murders, complicit with Russia. And the other thing I'd like to say while we're talking briefly about actual Polish politics is that throughout this whole documentary, throughout this whole presentation, Stefan never brings up the fact that this government in Poland is actually very left-wing when it comes to the welfare state. They're traditional Catholics, they're skeptical of the European Union and moral relativism, but when it comes to the welfare state, they are very, very to the left. But you'll never fucking hear that from Stepan. In fact, Stepan.
unbelievably horrible, brutalist, communist buildings that are basically like big, squat, evil Kleenex boxes designed to disassemble human beings. That are basically like big, squat, evil Kleenex boxes designed to disassemble human beings. That they still stand and people are marching between them. Like this is a knife cutting through the brutal architecture of communism. And that these buildings remind everyone, I think this is why they're still up, these buildings remind everyone of exactly what they fought, exactly what they suffered, and exactly why they march today. Aristotle said 2,500 years ago, whoever can live alone is either an animal or a god. Well, I, of course, am neither an animal nor a god. And I remember the pride when I was a child of the Second World War, of the Battle of Britain. And the last few days here in Poland have just kind of shattered something within me. In that this sense of collective unity, this sense of collective pride, this sense of having a tribe, this sense of having a culture you can be proud of, has arisen within me. And I've never been to Poland before. My first name is Polish. I know there's family history, but I've never been to Poland before.
I can understand a certain longing for ethnic belonging. Oh God, I didn't really want this to rhyme at all. My friends, at this point, I am a proud pseudo-Russian, pseudo-American, but there were points in my life when I wanted to be a real Russian or a real American. I had these desires. I would have explosions of Russian patriotism and wanted to go back to the motherland to be back with my people. And the idea of a motherland was not totally ironic to me back in the day. It's not entirely ironic to me today either, but back in the day I really sort of wanted to leap in there with my own kind. Because when you live in when you're a part of a big ethnicity that lives somewhere, there is a sense of familiarity with interactions. Like, I went to the store in Russia and I was buying some pizza and some old man came over and said, "Oh, this is not good for you, it's not healthy, a lot of preservatives." And these things kind of happen routinely when somebody starts talking with you as if you were a member of their family or something. And there is less, in a sense, there is a certain lack of awkwardness, or I should say there is less awkwardness. There's less awkwardness before other people because you're synchronized culturally on a very intimate level. And Stefan perhaps never experienced it to this extent because he doesn't live in a... He lives as a part of the majority people, majority race, but doesn't have that ethnic intimacy that people could have like in Poland or elsewhere. But beyond the marches and the proclamations about the shared history and all this bullshit, it doesn't go that deep. Basically, you're still stranger among strangers. Nobody really profoundly gives a shit about you. And it's kind of like that. It doesn't go that deep.
And I can't tell you how strange a feeling it is that I have a sense of unity with people in a country I've never been to before. And it tells me just how much has been taken away from us by these goddamn cultural Marxists, by the people who oppose the West, by the people who oppose any kind of pride in Western history. This sense of unity, this sense of purpose, this quiet resolution and willingness to defend what your ancestors fought to give you, I have not experienced it in many, many decades, and I've never, ever experienced it as an adult. Go out into the public square and say you're proud of the West, and you're proud of the freedoms that were fought for, and you're proud of the sacrifices of your ancestor, and you're immediately a fascist and a Nazi. And I feel almost, I hate to say born again, but almost like something has broken within me that I have put up to defend myself against criticisms of unity, against criticisms of pride. Against criticisms of pride. It is an appalling thing to take away people's history. It is an appalling thing to take away people's pride. And it is an appalling thing to take away their unity, because I've never felt it more strongly than I do today. Together we stand divided. we fall.
I want to say a few words to my Slavic brother Stefan. It wasn't the cultural Marxists who robbed you of your pride. It was the North American continent. I don't know what goofy ethnic backgrounds you have, but once you landed in Canada, you just became another generic white male. Another generic North American white male, and the only thing you can take pride of at this point is your race, which is indeed fucking racist by definition. Every second video of Stefan's is about America, the United States of America. Every other video. Now you would almost think he'd lived here, but he doesn't. It's just his biggest market. And one would think that with this output, he would fucking understand that there is no shortage of pride here in America, in this country. I mean, you have Fox News, you have every other talk radio station. I mean, it's just endless. Every day I see American flags proudly fucking waving in the air. I see fucking pickup trucks with giant American flags attached in the back. I see Confederate flags, the old stars and bars, if you want to affiliate with that entity that treated human beings as property and make your stand there. No fucking shyness about any of it.
This level of destruction, this level of mass murder, is something which we must never forget. And this is one of the reasons why I talk so strongly against the welfare state and against government takeover of things like charity and help for the poor. In the 1930s, Poland had the largest welfare state in the entire world, the largest structure of social support in the world. This kind of collectivization and government control of charity is the fruit with which they sell you the poison of collectivism, of coercion. The more that the government takes over things that you want, the more it will end up doing things you don't want. In Germany, under Bismarck in the late 19th century, Germany developed the largest welfare state at the time, unemployment insurance, old age pensions, and that led in many ways to the collectivism of the Nazis. You have to be very careful when you ask the government to do things for you. It will start off by offering you exactly what you want, and it will end up by taking away everything that you need.
How kind it is of the philosopher to express his high school senior trite libertarian sentiments and use the suffering of the Poles as a background, to use a nice cemetery to yap about the dangers of the welfare state. It's because the Poles had such a nice, sweet welfare state in the 1930s that they were invaded by the Nazis in the Soviet Union. They clearly deserved it. They were asking for it by trying to provide for people. I guess we should all be wary of the invasion coming from Sweden or Norway or something. I mean, they really are ripe for action. Who knows, man, what's going on in those IKEA stores? What sinister plans are being hatched there? But I do have a nice quote for you about the state here. And the quote goes, "The state is a great value. The attachment to the state, to one's fatherland, we call patriotism. Beware of the word nationalism, as nationalism is evil." Who could say such a thing, praising the state in this way?
This is what I got from Poland, and it is a lot. First of all, I've always been skeptical of the ideas of white nationalism, of identitarianism, and white identity. However, I am an empiricist, and I could not help but notice that I could have peaceful, free, easy, civilized, and safe discussions in what is essentially an all-white country. The monoculture that has survived from the Middle Ages through the Renaissance, through the Enlightenment, through the Industrial Revolution, into the 21st century in Poland is something to be treasured, respected, admired, and protected.
So the philosopher is slipping here, slipping a little bit, acting like an asshole on two accounts. The thing number one is that he said specifically the Polish monoculture. The Polish monoculture has survived. So what the fuck does that mean? He didn't say that the Polish culture has survived through centuries. And of course, Poland in its current territory was not a monoculture. Have you heard about fucking all the Jews who lived in Poland? Are you aware that there were many Ukrainians who lived in Poland until Stalin redrew the borders of the country? And what is today Western Ukraine used to be Eastern Poland. And there were Poles living in Ukraine and Ukrainians living in Poland. And then they all got deported through totalitarian means across the borders. And of course, we know what happened with the Jews. And I don't know what Stefan's view of the Holocaust is at this specific moment. I don't know where he's sliding with his estimates. But yeah, the Jews got wiped out. So it really wasn't a monoculture. And if you want to celebrate today's monoculture, you're basically celebrating horrible ethnic cleansing and mass deportations, including of the Polish Germans back to their fatherland, much of it carried out by Stalin. What the fuck are you talking about, Stefan? Why did you have to fucking say monoculture?
In what is essentially an all-white country. The monoculture that has survived from the Middle Ages.
And the other thing is this asshole walking around in the woods talking about white nationalism. It's like, are you so stupid that you can't distinguish fucking ethnic pride from white nationalism? Is the idea of race so deeply embedded into your head that you don't understand that the nationalism in Eastern Europe is often set against the adversary who's also white? Right? Because there are no fucking countries with other ethnicities bordering there. I mean, there are, of course, with Russia, but you know what I mean. Stefan, you're not fucking making any sense, dude. And that's the whole fucking idea with this Polish trip. It really is about really white nationalism here. It's not really about Poland. It's about a nice slide for the philosopher. For such a long time, the philosopher believed in individualism. And now he started supporting Trump and kind of going in that direction. Going in the direction of white nationalism. And he needed a nice, smooth, emotional transition for the idiots who still suck on his balls and actually view him as a philosopher and view this title of the philosopher in Poland without breaking out in nausea or laughter or both. And for them, they need a nice emotional transition where they see the philosopher pretending to cry at the Polish March. So now, like, I'm sure Stefan, as he goes forward, you know, marching forward, he can always reference this thing, his majestic trip to Poland, where he turned himself around and became a different man when it comes to collectivism. You see, because there's bad collectivism that leads to universal health care, and there's good collectivism that resists the government, even though resisting the government is not the point of the Polish nationalism. It's just establish a sovereign government of their own that's not ruled from Moscow or Berlin. All right, my friends, what more can I say about Stefan? There's nothing I can say about him. I fucking hate him. I fucking hate him. Every time it takes me forever to film these dumb videos about Stefan Molyneux, and by the end of it, I can't act nonchalant. The philosopher fucking has gotten to me. Yeah, my friends, I just purchased a bar stool with Patreon money, because it's like, this current fucking chair, it's really inconvenient. It really is inconvenient at this point. Like, I tried to arrange shit. My backgrounds are small. We'll see how we're gonna do with this bar stool. It might be the next thing. It might be like the Polish Independence March. For Stefan, this bar stool, I'll fucking record myself on it and shed a few salty tears, you know, and I'll just look at the collectivism differently and draw a swastika somewhere. My friends, thank you for watching.
Freedom, you see, is like a fire. To have a fire, you need to go and gather the firewood. I have, for the most part, over the course of my career as a public intellectual, worked alone.